Okay, so we're going to go into one, what's going to happen? The Fed's about to cut rates. So are they going to have a positive impact on inflation? Probably not. Two, are they going to have a positive impact on employment rates? Unlikely. Three, going to get into what can I do or what can we do in this situation financially as we're trying to figure out how to navigate these waters that might be a little treacherous for some people. And I'm over here in Tokyo for about a 2-week business trip. So before we get into this video, try to like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. I'm here at the Imperial Palace, and you can see those treacherous waters. I think the big factor that we have to think through is that no matter what, okay, when we're entering into a period that we aren't really sure of, we got to build the moat. We got to establish things around our financial basis and figure out how can we be sustainable, and then create that context. Where are we at in our own financial life? Where are we at in what we're trying to do? Are we trying to save for our kids' college, or are we trying to save just for our retirement? Do we have a high income? Do we not have a high income? So those are really, really important things and questions that you guys have to answer. And then you build your freaking moat like they did here in the Imperial Palace like thousands of years ago. And it's absolutely, dude, it's so nice here. We're in the middle of Tokyo. You can barely hear anything except for crickets and bugs and birds chirping. So where do I want to go with this is that one, okay, what are we trying to do with the Fed? The Fed is, we're not trying to do anything, but the Fed is trying to cut rates, right? To try to have some type of positive impact on inflation. I think inflation is already sort of rolling in a bad direction, especially because they're printing more and more money. This is a nice visual right here. And so I don't see that actually having any type of change. Two, what are they going to be doing with the job? Will this have a positive impact on the jobs market? I think when we talk about the stock market versus the economy, and we look at these things and we recognize that the overarching economy is heading in a grander job cut situation. Manufacturing isn't picking up as quickly as people would think, like the Trumpinators might actually think would happen. Manufacturing is taking a long time. UPS is laying people off. Microsoft, the tech companies, are going to be laying a lot of people off because of the AI boom. So if we're looking at like the top 50 companies in the actual economy or in the market, right, in the stock market, those top 50 companies might be rolling really, really well, and they're going to be increasing revenue. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be hiring more people because of things like AI and everything along those lines. So what does that mean then as we move forward, right? So we have to think through this lens and recognize that it's not going to be looking good if we're looking at the dual mandate of the Fed, that they're actually going to accomplish much of anything. And then we have people saying that there's probably going to be 2 to 3 more cuts. Now, in the previous videos I've put out on the channel, going back all the way to June, I was talking about we might be entering at the end of September, October, into November, a sort of a downturn here. Reminiscent of 2018. I mentioned this in a few different videos, and now I'm looking at it even further, and I'm thinking, and especially looking at what happened in crypto about 3 weeks ago, I think what is probably going to happen is the rates are going to get cut. The market might shoot up for about 3 to 5 days, and then we might see a fall off. Now, what does this mean for what we can do long term, right? And what do we think through, and are we changing any of our investment strategies? And I think that's going to be the overarching big question that we have to look at is, should we alter our investment strategies? Should we actually change things during a Fed cutting environment? And I think that initially we have to have that context set up for where we want to go. So we have to have this broad context for where we want to go. And then second, I think you have to stay true to your game plan and say, okay, if I'm trying to make more money than I spend, I have to budget, okay? And then after I budget, I have to set up all these things on when I'm going to be dollar cost averaging, and then I have to roll through that. And that's going to take me into, if we're looking at our first principles, our first financial principles, okay? And I've mentioned in the past, dotting our financial I's, crossing our financial T's. If we're looking at first principles, companies that we might invest in, okay, they have to have a clean balance sheet. They have to have high revenue. They have to be a good freaking company. Like, they have to provide some type of value to the economy, okay? And if they provide some type of value, then we should be investing in them. Now, the next thing is that we also have to look at, if we're thinking through areas that sort of pop off a little bit when there is a Fed cut, is crypto tends to pop off. So if we're thinking through that lens, okay, if crypto is going to pop off, what's my crypto play? My crypto play is going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe Solana, and then we're looking at the treasury funds. So Bitmine, Immersion, Strategy. I wouldn't go that way for me personally into Strategy, but that's the way I'm thinking through this scenario. Is that now you can look at that. Next thing, okay, gold's probably going to pop off. Okay, well then we can look into different aspects. And do we want to purchase gold or silver? You can, for sure. This isn't financial advice, but those are things and plays that you can take into account, that typically you will see some type of growth when there is a Fed cut. Now, should you be doing these things? And then what am I actually going to end up doing? What I'm going to actually end up doing is really interesting, and it's something that I've been thinking through for a while. I've shared a couple different stocks with you guys on here in the past, but what we have to look at is, it still comes down to establishing how much can you invest on a weekly basis, how much can you save on a weekly basis, right? And then move forward off of that. Now, in my case specifically, I'm still analyzing my actual portfolio, and I'm looking at it and I'm going SoFi, I'm going AMD, I'm going Google's been popping off for a while, Meta is super stable, got Nvidia as basically what I use as my own personal high yield savings account, right? So then you have your high yield savings account, and then I'm looking at other plays like Nike, which is the beaten down dog that's starting to really come to life here. I'm trying to think off the top. ELF, I forget if I even mentioned ELF, but we're looking at those plays and I'm going, okay, in this case, where else would I possibly put more money? Okay, so then the next thing is like, all right, well, I've talked about Adobe, I've talked about Celsius, and those are really the two I've been thinking about the most. Is, should I try to invest into Adobe? And I'm really still thinking through that lens. But the big one I've thought about a lot recently has been Celsius, and I'm going to try and sit on this for another 2 to 3 weeks. Now, here's the one thing I want to voice for me personally, is that I was introduced to an ETF about 4 months ago, okay, that mimics the S&P, but it only mimics the top 100 of the S&P. It's called SPMO. There's a YouTuber I follow, Victoria, who has mentioned this multiple times over the last year, and I'm like, this is an interesting. It's a momentum ETF that performs really well. So one thing I have thought about, because a lot of people like to hedge during the fall, going into fourth quarter, they also like to hedge in the case of Fed rate cuts, right? So one scenario that I am thinking through is taking out, as my S&P 500 is sitting right now. Oh, there's a blue heron. I don't know if you guys can. Yeah, you can see it right there. That's sick. One thing that I've been thinking through is, okay, I want to take out a little bit of money from VU, sit on it, and then put into SPMO and see that when the interest rates get cut, this is going to take off. So I would put the money into SPMO early. That's one play that I'm thinking about doing right now. But in all reality, I'm not changing anything outside of the lens of like, I'm still going to dollar cost average every single week. I'm still trying to think through, do I want to put money into Celsius or not? Do I want to put more money into AMD? Do I want to put more money into SoFi? Do I want to put more money into ELF? And just keep rolling with the same continuous play. And that's the whole thing. We've got to have those financial first principles established. And when you have the financial first principles established, you really aren't going to be changing much outside of, yes, there might be a cut coming, and that's going to have a positive impact on crypto. And if you're in a financial situation that you can do something like that, by all means, go ahead and make that play. But otherwise, I think stay true to your plan. Keep working, build that financial moat like this freaking awesome Imperial Palace here in Tokyo. I hope this helps somebody think through how you should handle your finances when the Fed cuts rates. Peace.